Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. At the end of another week, it's time for our Flashback Friday program. As part of our 60th anniversary, we're looking back at some of the stories and programs in our archive. Earlier this month, we highlighted the 2015 Dairy Farm of the Year. Keewaydin Farm in Stowe was honored for its innovation, including its use of robotic milkers. Well, 10 years ago, we aired a story about the very first farm in Vermont to add robotics. Here's Keith Silva's report from Nordic Farms in Charlotte.
Do not attempt to adjust your set. What you are seeing is the future of dairy farming in Vermont.
We've got a TV camera here. They've got 8 cameras throughout the barn. One is in each robot room.
That's right, robot milking machines. The technology has been commercially available since the early 1990s, but it was not used in the United States until 2000. This facility at Nordic Farms in Charlotte is the first of its kind in Vermont and in the entire Northeast.
There's another cow waiting to come in.
When a cow enters the robot, she is identified by a transponder worn around her neck. Identifying her allows the robot to weigh her and calculate the last time she was milked. Based on this information, an exact amount of grain is dispensed for the cow to eat. The cow is sanitized, and then lasers scan the udder to detect the location of each teat. Once their location is determined, the cow is milked.
On a quarter basis, it checks it for conductivity. It also checks the color of the milk. It weighs the milk, so we know how much milk the cow gives, and we can detect sick cows at the very onset of sickness.
The information is sent to the main computer in the control room, where it is evaluated. The ticks, clicks, and buzz made by the robots are a call to action that challenges the way farmers have been milking cows for generations.
Biggest challenge wasn't training the cows to come into this robot type environment. It's another milking system, and it takes the cows about a week to accommodate and start going through. It was training the employees to work with the cows. In the way that we've done it in our freestyle type environments, it's always been like hollering at the cows, pushing them, crowding them into a holding area. And we've done that for years, and that's just the way we've done it. And to try to train the employees to take a different approach in handling cows is a bigger challenge than training the cows. Because if the employees don't treat the cows the way they're supposed to in this calm, laid-back type atmosphere, the cows are not going to go through the robot the way it was designed to do. The cows are in control of the robots. They pick the time that they want to get milked, and they're independent. Really, the cows are the boss.
The robots free the farmer from the day-to-day grind of milking cows.
People have told me that with the robotic environment that we're going to have less hands-on handling the cows. That's not true. We have more time to handle the cows. We actually work more with the cows through this robotic environment. Even though we're not actually milking the cows, we still walk amongst the cows. It's a more very laid-back type atmosphere. The cows are very calm. The workers I have working here are very gentle with the cows.
Adult cows are not the only ones being brought up by robotic technology on this farm. The newest members of the herd are also being brought up in a high-tech world.
It was taking about 10 man-hours to take care of them 21 calves. When we moved into the new facility, it dropped it down to 2 man-hours for the same 21 calves. But the calm calf feeder is what it's called. We've had up to 52 calves on it and still takes 2 man-hours. But instead of feeding them 3 times a day, it feeds them 8 times a day. So that's the labor efficiency there.
LeClaire believes that the calves raised in this robotic environment will require less training once they move over into the milking herd.
And cows are very habitual creatures, and it starts right from the beginning. If they're treated right and they get into this routine at the beginning, then they're going to follow through the robot facility, and the cows love it.
280 milkers, but over 500 head.
Clark Hinsdale and his family own Nordic Farms. Their decision to build a high-tech dairy facility was made in large part to adapt to the challenges of operating a dairy business in Vermont's most urban landscape.
Here in Chittenden County, we're blessed with the highest average wages of any county in the state. We're blessed with a lot of high-tech businesses. People come here to work at IBM, they come here to work at IDX. And so for us to become a computer-age farm where basically computer skills are required for working here, the ability to operate a computer and manipulate the data, interpret the data, and apply it to the farming situation is a key skill. So what we have is we have fewer jobs because the robots replace kind of the menial labor part, repetitive labor part, over and over milking the cows. And instead, we have fewer staff, they're higher paid, have higher skill levels, and are a group of people who are looking forward and excited about the future of farming and are participating in that. I also believe that we want for our state, you know, for the standard of living to continue to rise, for wages to continue to rise, and for more and more Vermonters to be making the kind of livings that send their kids to college and enjoy the beautiful state that we live in. Agriculture simply can't run counter to that trend. We have to figure out how to be more productive. Farmers are sick of hearing that they need to be more productive, but it isn't necessarily the farmer that needs to be more productive, because farmers work real hard and put in a lot of hours. But having the tools with which to be more productive. You've got to free those people who are passionate about farming up from the drudgery of 7 days a week milking the cows in order for them to be on top of their game and grow their businesses and be successful.
Nordic Farms currently employs 4 robots to milk their cows. This size operation is considered large by Vermont standards, but the robot technology was actually designed for herds of 70 cows.
The interesting thing is that in Europe, virtually all the robotic dairy farms have 1 or 2 robots. That means they're talking, 50 to 100 cows. And those farms are successfully using this technology. It basically probably does as much or more for the small farm as it does for the large farm. Now, let's take the economies of scale. Basically, for each pod of 60 or 70 cows, you need a robot. Twice as many cows, twice as many robots. So there's basically no economy of scale in the technology, which means that the economic benefits for a 1 robot farm are equal or potentially greater than the economic benefits are to a 4 robot farm, which ours is.
Why aren't we seeing more of this technology on farms in the Northeast?
Because the technology hasn't been integrated into the systems in Vermont that farmers are used to dealing with. In order for this technology to become more widespread, your farm lenders, like our farm lenders, Yankee Farm Credit and the other lenders that lend to farmers will have to have data and have to understand the cost-benefit ratio, the payback cycles and so forth associated with the robots. The Department of Agriculture will continue to get more comfortable to dealing with the regulatory issues around robotic milkers. Robotic milking changes everything. It doesn't just change one thing, it changes everything. And as Vermont farm suppliers and farm lenders, farm workers learn more about the technology, it'll be easier to implement it in other places.
In an effort to introduce this technology, gauge opinions, and share information, the Hinsdales have opened their farm to the public.
We've had all kinds of groups come through this farm, from school groups to professional vet groups, to dairy industry groups, you name it. There is no group of people that acts more like a kid in a candy shop than farmers who come here of any age. And the lack of criticism and the excitement about what we're doing and the interest in kind of knowing, as Paul Harvey would say, what's the rest of the story. Everybody wants to know the information that we won't have for 5 years. You know, how did it turn out? And we are taking a bit of a chance, I suppose, in doing this. But the fact of the matter is that building a new dairy facility of any kind in Chittenden County is a gamble. And so to build a dairy facility that has a chance to take advantage of basically all the good new ideas that are out there, from the robot calf feeder to the digester to the untapped market for agritourism. Those are the things that we're excited about, and we feel on this site we have the option.
At Nordic Farms, the future is now. In Charlotte, Vermont, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Our next segment takes us to the Rutland County town of Danby. In 1971, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Pearl Buck bought a home in Danby. She lived there for 2 years before her passing in 1973. Former Across the Fence producer Lynn Jarvis had met Pearl Buck back in 1971 and worked with her on a film project for Vermont Public Television. Some of the old film was preserved, including this segment in which Pearl Buck tours Danby Center.
I hear the children, they're here gathered to look at our old green parrot, 40 years old, and I must say quite bad-tempered. He's making up his mind about the children. I hope he doesn't say anything naughty. He's quite capable of it. This is the outside of our country store, 100 years old. Oh, here's Dottie Rolfe, and I'm asking her. I'm going to ask her for a piece of cheese, Dottie, please. This good Vermont cheese, I can never resist it. And we give all our customers a taste. To tempt them, of course. We have every sort of country produce and in our store.
Wasn't that interesting? It's nice to have this film preserved for future generations to see. And I'm with Cecilia Strauss now. She grew up here in Danby, and her father ran this store, Rosen's Store, and Cecilia was the one that actually sold it to Pearl Buck. And before we find out about that, Cecilia, give us a little history of the store.
Well, this store was built by Silas Griffith, who was Vermont's first millionaire. And it was built in 1865, and he ran it, and there were only 3 owners in 100 years.
Now, when Pearl Buck came to Danby, what was the feeling of the people? Was there a lot of excitement?
Well, you see, this village was very quiet before that, and many of the houses that were here were vacant. People had grown up and gone away to where there were more job opportunities, and so they didn't remain in the village. And when Pearl Buck came, it was like a magnet. Oh. And of all the people I've ever met, I would say the most charismatic woman was Pearl Buck.
Well, Cecilia, thank you for this wonderful historical look at Pearl Buck's stay here in Danby. She really left her legacy on the town, didn't she?
Well, I feel that she was a very definite improvement when she came, and that people admired her and wanted to see where she lived and how she lived. And the interesting thing about her is even when you went to her house for dinner, she served things in Oriental dishes. She had so many things from the Orient, and she made you so pleased to be with her. Oh. It was a pleasure, it really was.
Wonderful memories you've had.
An interesting look back at Pearl Buck and her time in Danby. That's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.